Hi, everybody. I just want to welcome you to today's webinar, Fireside Chat, Everyday Legal Smarts for Entrepreneurs. My name is Kathy Burrell, and I'm an entrepreneur in residence here at WeBC. Martine refers to herself as a serial entrepreneur, and I'm exactly the same way. Before we get started, I just wanted to acknowledge that today we're gathered here on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx people. We're here in Kelowna today. If we honor, recognize, and respect the presence of Indigenous people, past, present, and future. And if you're curious about where you're actually joining us from, Jen is going to post a link in the chat that has a map, and you can take a look and see what traditional territory that you're on. We're still letting people into the waiting room because we've got, 300 people registered for today's webinar. But if you would like to just put in the chat your first name and what territory you're on, feel free. WeBC is always happy to see where people are coming from, if they're in BC or all over the place. So, we'd love to hear from you as well. If you have a topic, like a burning topic that you feel that nobody is addressing in the business world and you want WeBC to feature it, please, at the end, if you can stick around for 1 or 2 minutes after 1 o'clock and just fill in our feedback poll, that's the time that you would actually put in the topic that you're interested in, and we'll get a hold of you just to let you know that we're interested in that and what it's all about. So we'd love that. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about WeBC before we get started. We offer support for your small business journey. We offer financing to get your business started and operating capital to fuel your growth. We offer more flexibility than traditional lenders because we take a holistic approach and provide loans based on your business's viability, not based on formulas. So this means we provide loans to a diverse range of women-owned businesses and support you with integrated services, including complimentary mentoring, training, and business advising. From essential business skills development to personalized business advice, we know the right questions to ask and the right resources to connect you with. In our mentoring programs, you can connect with a network of women entrepreneurs and experts all around BC, no matter where you are in our province, who can support and inspire you. You can learn more about our services by going to our website, which is we-bc.ca, and that will be also a link in the chat today too. We'd love it if you would sign up for our e-blast newsletter, as every month we send out an e-blast that has all our new programs, and we really have a ton of new offerings this fall that you might be interested in. And essentially, most of them you can sign up for them right from the e-blast. So we'd love that. Okay, we're still having people come into the waiting room, which is great, but I think we're going to get started and everybody will catch up. So today's webinar, we would like to welcome today our panelist, who is Martine Boucher, serial entrepreneur, mentor, and co-founder of Simplex Legal. I want to tell you that, legal issues show up everywhere in business, and not every situation needs a lawyer or a 30-page contract. In this practical, plain language session, you are going to learn everyday strategies to navigate legal questions and manage risks with more clarity and confidence. I want to let you know that Martine is joining us from Quebec, and she is a lawyer there, but she's not licensed in BC. So this webinar is for information only, and if you have a specific question for Martine, you can send us an email and we can get it to her. But chances are we're going to go through today the instances when you maybe need a lawyer, maybe not, and you would hire, of course, a lawyer here in BC. So join us today for a candid conversation with Martine Boucher, serial entrepreneur, mentor, and co-founder of Simplex Legal. She's going to share real-world tools and frameworks to help you build your legal radar such a great term. So you can make strong, informed decisions without needing a law degree. Boy, that's 8 years you never need to spend. Thank you and welcome, Martine. I'm going to turn my screen off now and you can go ahead and share yours. Welcome, Martine.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Actually, I'm joining from here, beautiful Kelowna,
Oh,
BC, where
geez.
I live. But like, yeah, you're right. I'm not a lawyer in BC. I didn't get the transfer because, one day I made the left turn from law into business, and I became an entrepreneur, and I never looked back. So let me share my screen here. There we go. Can you just confirm that you're all seeing my screen? Should be a picture of me with a different hair color. So that's always good.
Yep.
So yeah, today I really want to talk about the simple stuff we can do every day to increase our legal smarts as entrepreneur. And I want to touch quickly how I approach this. I really want to know how, to help you understand how to handle legal questions. There's a lot of them. We cannot get into the details, but having a methodology on how to approach legal issues, I think with confidence and not fear, it is super important. So that's what we're going to talk about. I want you to have a little bit of the signals, when is it time to seek professional legal advice? I'm a firm believer.
Martine, I
Yes.
just want to let you know that I've done something weird with the slides and I don't see you anymore. And so I think people don't see you anymore. Jen, can you
No,
assist?
you just have to change your view, Kathy.
Yeah, no, we
Okay.
can see her, Kathy.
I can
Oh,
see it,
can
you
you?
can.
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry,
Not a
Martine.
problem. So yeah, I want to have this conversation like when to use a lawyer and when you can self-serve because I think as an entrepreneur we have limited time and money and it's not realistic to send everything to a lawyer. We would all be out of business if we were to do that. So I'll share some practical resources, some simple frameworks that myself I follow to try to get clarity around a legal question. Kathy touched on this, but I am not licensed, so I cannot provide legal advice to specific situations. So we're going to be having like general guidance, educational tools. Plus, this is recorded, so you really don't want to share confidential information or have it like republicized everywhere. So not a good idea. So here's my challenge, the mission impossible. Can we do a legal smart session without answering legal questions? So that is really the problem we're having here. So our mission, should you choose to accept it, is really to work together and arm you with general guidance and awesome tools, boost your confidence without getting into specific legal advice. So I promise you, if you start asking questions that are too specific, I may play the whole Mission Impossible theme song here to entertain everybody. Um, so let's move to the next slide. The first thing I want to say is I really want to demystify legal. Like it's always seen as this big bucket. Like it's like you say, this is a legal issue. Everybody gets really uncomfortable. To me, legal issues and law, it's really a conversation. It all starts with how we communicate and clarify, especially in the business world. We clarify our business relationships every day. It's a conversation skill. So the more clarity you bring to the table, the better you will get at this. And I really want to emphasize that most legal problems don't start with complex laws. So I've practiced law for over 20 years with small, big business. Like, I've done the multinational. I was the in-house counsel for General Electric. I've done the small business. I've done my own businesses. Every time I've ran into issues, it's always because we started with unclear expectations, unspoken assumptions. We all fill in the blanks, right? Like you start talking about something and everybody's filling the blank on the conversation, or we misspoke, we miscommunicate, we did not communicate at all. So to me, that's a really good news because it's so easy to fix in a way. Simple, intentional conversations really will empower you to prevent many of these issues. So if you undo what I just mentioned, that is the problem, then if you start by clarifying the expectations, you ask open questions, you document the deals that you do, and you always check the assumptions you've made, you're already ahead of the game. So let's unpack this a little bit more. So I want you to picture this. You know, you went to a WBC event in one of the locations you're at, and you meet this wonderful woman offering marketing services. You're starting to talk, and you're like, "Hey, I'm attending this conference. I need to prepare some marketing materials." And she's like, "Oh my God, I understand your vision. I can work on this, right? I'll just get started right away." So you each leave this wonderful encounter and you go your own way. 3 weeks pass and the conference date is really approaching. It's like it's tomorrow and you still haven't heard from your new friend. And finally, the day you're leaving for the conference, they drop all the marketing material in a a zip file for you, and the invoice is double what you expected. So I don't know for how many of you this sounds familiar, but talking to my friends and other people in business, this is too often the case. Just, you start engaging and there was an agreement somewhere in there, but people didn't take time to really dig into this. So these small misunderstandings happen all the time. And a casual conversation leads to different assumptions. Like just the example about the price. You thought this would be probably $500. The person came at like 1,500, and it's like, oh my God, you thought she understood your business, and she did something very generic. You wanted printed materials. She delivered a zip. Like all of this can be avoided, not with fancy legal documents, but with one simple practice that I think takes less than 5 minutes. So I had the really fancy idea of getting people to do chat and put their experience in there, but I don't know how many people we are right now, but I think the chat would get a little bit crowded. So maybe I'll just jump and keep talking on this one. So what is that simple tool that you can use? Well, guess what? Um, I think the recap email is an undervalued tool for managing your legal risks. It's like the before scenario is you've got a conversation only, vague memories, and everybody's filling in whatever details you didn't talk about. Everybody comes to the table with their own assumption of what this looked like based on what they've done before or what they understood was standard. But you take time to do a recap email and you write the summary, you confirm the specifics, you write down your assumptions, right? And you invite corrections. You ask the person, it's like, did I capture exactly what we agreed on? And that's such a beautiful way to surface any misunderstanding before things even get a little ugly. Sometimes it's a little ugly, sometimes it's big ugly, right? So I want just to show, like, sometimes for me it looks that simple. It's like, hey, hi Janet, thanks so much for the call today. I want to recap our conversation to make sure we're aligned. So you'll deliver my marketing materials in a printed format by like 1 week before the conference. You insert the date. I would expect the total cost to be probably under $500, and I'll pay you when you deliver the materials. And it could be that simple, right? And I always like to add this last sentence. If I've missed anything or misunderstood any details, please let me know. Like, looking forward to work together. It's really that simple. But you would be surprised how many times I've had friends coming to me and saying, I'm in this big problem, and just this email would have changed everything, and people didn't do it. So it's a 3 to 5 minutes to write, saves you, I think, thousands of dollars down the road. stress. And the best part is that most people really welcome that clarity. They think you're organized and easy to work with. So all of that while protecting yourself. So simple. Maybe before I move on, I say it's simple, but the concept behind that I've used from very simple, like I'm buying a service, a very simple service, all the way to I'm starting up a new business with a business partner. And we took time to do just bullet points explaining what are our expectations. Um, People were surprised when I suggested that the first time because they know I'm a commercial lawyer, so I can write a founder's agreement, I can write a shareholders agreement, but I didn't want to write it because I wanted to make sure we had a clear business deal before we even go to that extra step of creating a formal agreement. I think sometimes people get hung up into a template and they forget that the template is there to capture the business agreement, not to create the agreement. If you don't have a clear agreement, business agreement to begin with, if you've not taken the time to talk to your counterparty and make sure you've surfaced all of this, it's going to cost you a lot of money, even if you go to a lawyer, because the lawyer will try to guess what is the deal that you've really made. So I'm sharing with you this simple tool, a recap email. That's a great way to practice. But what I want to emphasize is that this is a great way to build like memorandum of understandings. You might have seen like MOUs sometimes being used in larger deals. Well, it's around this. It's around like really making sure that you capture the essence of what you need, what you want, and what you've agreed on. So at times people will ask me, it's like, but I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I should be agreeing on. So that's when sometimes reading a template agreement can give you some ideas of the topics. But I would also say that there's another very easy framework that you can use. And for me, this is like the 5W. It's like you're writing a story, right? Like who, like who's going to be involved in this deal? Who's going to play a role? What role are they going to play? Who has the decision making? Who would approve those marketing documents? Like, do you want to approve them? Who's responsible for making sure they get delivered to your place? Or is it, who's responsible for picking it up? So you start talking about like who's involved, and then you move to the what, like what are they going to do? What are the things we exchange? Like what's the payment? What are the services? What exactly is being provided? What does success look like? Do you know exactly why you're entering into this deal? Like, what does it mean to your business? Is this just like, I need somebody to give me a coffee machine? Or is this like, I need to find a new partner that will help me grow this business? You won't approach the agreement the same way if it's something like a bet the farm that I call like the big deals that are so essential to the life of your business and your growth, then you would like a contract that is there for 6 months with very little impact. You just need a coffee machine. If it's not this one, can be another one, right? Like you're not signing with your blood. Um, Under the why, I also like to anticipate the friction points. And by that, what I mean is I try to think about what's the why of the other party? Why is the other person doing business with me? What's in the deal for them, so that I can anticipate where, the two circles may overlap or not. And then I think also about why could things go sideways. It's like it's never fun to think about it, but it's like a good prenup in my book. So much easier to talk about the prenup when you're in love, when you're like all like lovey-dovey, you want to accommodate each other, you see where this is going. Then when things have all broken down and you cannot stand each other and don't want to be in the same room. So thinking in advance about what could go wrong, what would you do if it go wrong, is super important. Then I go back to clarifying more the timing elements, like when is this contract going to start, when it's going to end, but also like in the middle, like what needs to happen at what time? Do I need to clarify some steps? Is there some payment schedules? Do we want this contract to renew? Do I want to get out sometimes before even the end of the contract? So that timeline piece gets looked at. And then finally, probably not as big an issue if you're doing business just in BC, but more and more businesses have a global reach. So you may have some built-in risk for dealing with other jurisdictions. So if you're dealing with a different country, they have different laws that apply to contracts, and you need to think about it. It's like, which law will apply to my contract? If you're signing a contract, say with somebody in New York, New York people love New York laws. They're really big fans of New York law. So they're always trying to force you into either Delaware or New York law. What do you know about New York law? If your contract falls apart, are you going to want to hire a New York lawyer to represent you in New York for your little dispute? So that gives you a chance to think about these considerations. Where are the services going to be performed? This has an impact on tax, but also just like, is this going to be remotely or in person? Are there any other legal questions you may have around where this is happening? So we all tend to skip some of these aspects. I would think that largely most people think about who, what, when. They don't always think about the where. And the one W that I feel people skip the most is the why. And the why informs your level of risks that you're willing to take, or how much money you need for this contract, or how much power you have also in this relationship. If this is something you really want and the other party is like, meh, I've got 100 people like you don't have the same level of power. So it matters in how you will approach the rest. I just find this very simple wheel to be efficient, to just get me to think about it, talk about it out loud. I just jot a few bullet points, and then I go back and I look at my agreements, like, am I touching the right topic? Did I cover everything? It just helps me uncover sometimes things that I didn't think about up front. So from there, I was thinking maybe you could practice a little bit. So if you're willing to just play with me for a second, so I'll give you a scenario. So I want you to imagine that you're hiring a freelance graphic designer to create your new brand identity. It's a very important project for you because it will represent your business for years to come. So what are some of the W from the framework that you should be thinking about? I'm like, okay, who can approve the changes or give some feedback? Who will handle the revisions if I'm not satisfied? Who owns the final design? Like, am I clearly the owner of this, or like, is it joint ownership? Did we clarify that? Then on the what, it's like, okay, what specific files and formats will I receive? What's included in the scope versus what will be the subject of additional costs? Then what happened if we need to pause? Like if this is going for 6 months and I'm like, okay, like this is going for way too long. What happens there? Then some of the when are the drafts due and when is the final delivery? When do I pay? Is it an upfront? Is it a milestone? Is it upon completion? And when can I start using the designs publicly? So those are just example, like very high level. So now I want you to take like just 30 seconds, a minute. I want you to think about the other W questions that you could ask. And if it's okay, I'd like to see a few ideas, like people that have some good ideas, put them in the chat and I'll just optimize my screen so that I can see the chats in there if I can. Yes.
And Martine, we had a question about the idea of, is there a generic sort of a lawyer's fee schedule in BC that is publicly, that you can access? If you've never worked with a lawyer before and you're not sure whether you're going to be paying $100 an hour or $400 an hour, is there any way for a
Yeah,
person to find out?
there is not. It would be such a great tool for sure. What I can share with you is that the range of fees is all over the map and typically depends on, it goes from the more generic a lawyer is. So if they do a little bit of everything, they don't have deep expertise or deep knowledge of an industry, the lower the fees. But they don't necessarily, they can be a good partner in the early days, but these might not be the people you want on your bet the farm agreement.
Right.
So we'll touch a little bit later on how to choose a lawyer and what to think about for fees. But let's just say that fees can go from like 150 an hour to like I left the practice probably like I left being a billable person more than 15 years ago, and I was charging $600 an hour. So like, you've got a super tax person that can help you implement a really complex deal might be $1,000 an hour. I think the lawyers, as an aside, are up for a tough challenge with AI, and people will start questioning how much they're charging and if the by the hour is still the right way to approach this. And there's some strategies that I will want to share a little bit later.
Great. And
Yeah.
the other question that came up as well is this idea that, you touched on it yourself, how do you know what you don't know when you're filling out some of these things, your wheel? Like if you're not exactly sure, what questions to ask, do you have any idea or,
I
strategies for people
I
on that?
certainly do, and I think that's where AI
Mm,
is the best partner right now.
great.
AI is really great at some basic educational. Like it's not good at understanding your specific context, but to get a feeling for what normally goes into an independent contractor agreement and giving you topics to think about, it's very excellent. And that's another tool that I want to share with the team.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the session.
That's right.
Right.
Um, so what happens when the client's request is unreasonable is when I saw from Kyra, then it is a great question. And I think it's not a legal question. I think it's a business question. I think this is just like, how much are you willing to take? And if you've made sure that your agreement in the early days was well drafted and reflects well how you operate, you don't have to deal with it. Like you don't have to suffer through this. And I think one of the best decisions I've made as an entrepreneur is sometimes is to fire a client. And it sounds counterintuitive, but the best deals sometimes that you make are the deals that you didn't make. And if somebody is forgive my French, but a pain in the ass to deal with, then do you really want to sign a contract with? And you see it very early, like I see it in the negotiations of a contracts, and I've walked away from some. It's hard in the early days because like we're all like trying to make do and paying rent and growing our business, and it feels so hard to turn down the client. But I think sometimes this is really what you could do the best. So I'll continue through my list because people are jumping ahead of what I want to talk about. So that's good. That's great. That means I'm talking about the right topics. So my other everyday tool is getting that sense of when should you call a lawyer. And I've got really, if I were to ask you guys what makes you hesitate to call a lawyer, and like, can I say that cost is probably the biggest issue? Probably not wanting to deal with someone that will speak a language that you don't understand is another one. Can't blame you. Um, like, yeah, cost and timing is usually the main concerns. I'd say for me, like let's talk about when it's worth going over these perceived obstacles. And I mentioned it earlier. It's like when the stakes are high and like I call this bet the firm, that's when I want to spend my money, because then prevention will cost you less than crisis management or even being stuck with a bad contract and now you're trying to sell your business. That can be very costly down the road. So what do I mean by the stakes are high? It's like you're spending significant money. Like if this is going to represent 50% of your revenues for next year, yeah, maybe you want to take some time to talk about it. If it's regarding the intellectual property, the core value of the business you're building, so you're build a business that is more into technology and selling services that are very core to, are very much dependent on intellectual property, then that might be another time where you pause and wonder if it's worth it, right? You really want to make sure that you own the rights to the product, to your work product that you're selling to other people. I'd say very long-term contracts like a commercial lease. You're doing a joint venture agreement, you're doing a partnership agreement, you're buying like a new key asset for your factory or for your small bakery. Sometimes it's worth it. So they're not for sure you have to. These are times where I want you to think about, let's pause and see if it's worth the risks that I do this myself versus going to a lawyer. See, the other time where I think a lawyer is really helpful, it's when emotions are high. And this happens often when there's a breakdown in relationships, like a dispute with your business partner. Super hard. Like, you both get into the room and the emotion runs really high. It's hard to get to a deal sometimes when that happens. And that's where the notion of an advocate, it's just to put a screen between you and the problem. I'll give you this example, like about 3 years now. Yeah, 3 years ago, I sold with my business partner. We sold our business to a New York tech-based company. And I decided, I'm a lawyer, I know this stuff. I'm not going to spend money hiring a lawyer to handle my exit from my business. I've been doing this for other clients a big chunk of my life. And being in the room and negotiating with both my hat as the business owner and my hat as a lawyer was so hard. There are times where I wanted to punch people, and it's like, how dare you talk about my business this way? It's because like it pushes you, and it's like it's talking about you and the baby that I liked my baby. I didn't want them to talk ill of my baby. It's like, how dare you? So looking back, I'm like, I should have hired somebody because it was really hard to sit in both positions, and I could have used that screen. I'd say same thing if you're getting threatening letters. Like anytime you find your emotions just like going a woo, like take a pause and say, who do I need a screen? Do I need a person to be my voice so that they can filter out and be more neutral in the negotiation? Sometimes it's good to have the emotions, and we all represent, I think at times, way better our businesses, but sometimes it's good to be neutral. So think about it in those terms. The other time where I really, really encourage you to think about it is when the power is unbalanced. Most of you in the room are small business owners. When you get your first big contract, say with a government agency, with a major player like a global corporations, and we're all seeing the dollar sign on the other side, and we're like, oh my God, this is a big one. This is a big one. I'm so excited. Well, for one, stakes are high, but two, the power will be unbalanced. I can tell you, these guys have an army of lawyers working internally for them that the cost is baked in. And you won't be negotiating at the same level. So it's a moment to pause and think about it. And in a similar fashion, if you're doing business in a new jurisdiction, with a country you don't know, with another state or so on, you might be signing up something that you really don't know what it is about. Because in every contract, we don't write every possible scenario. There's a bunch of rules that attach to your contract that are not written in your contract. It's like everything that's basic by law gets like it's like a trailer to your car. Like you think the contract is the car, but there's a big trailer behind you. And when it's in BC, we kind of know what's in the trailer, but you're going to the States, you don't know what's in the trailer. Like they could say that you're always responsible if your employees do ABC, and you just didn't know because that's not the case here in Canada and in BC. So if you're unfamiliar with the jurisdiction, like it might be a good moment to consider it. So that's when to call a lawyer. Then I'm like, how do you choose the right lawyer? Um, so people often choose the right lawyer based on what, from my experience, three things: cost. They find somebody that they think is cheap and they won't be spending a lot of money. Um, I would say proximity is the other one. It's like your brother-in-law has dealt with a lawyer last month because like he had like a family law issue. It's like, I know a lawyer. And I find that those are really not the right approach to hire your lawyer. And I'd say for me, the biggest driver in my case is the fit. I want someone that gives a shit. Like I'm sorry for using this language, but I don't want to be talking to a robot. I want somebody that I can trust, that I can have an open conversation. I want somebody who's curious about my business. The person never asks you what you're doing. Like, really? Like, you're like, when times will get tough and you have to negotiate, how will they know what's right or wrong with you if they don't understand where you are, what you want to do? Second, I want them to be fluent in plain language. Um, it- might be like my age showing up, but like if people are speaking legal jargon, often it's because they can't explain something in simple terms. Like you're okay, maybe you've learned it and it feels cool to use a Latin terms, but like the real talented people, the people that are good at what they do, they can explain it in terms that you understand. A good commercial lawyer should be a translator of legal risks so that you understand it in business risks. Um, and add to this that I want them to be responsive and proactive. To me, that's all part of communicating and being there for me. Transparent fees, there shouldn't be any, don't be shy. Ask them. It's like, what are the fees? How are you going to bill me? Is this going to be hourly, flat rate, retainer? Lawyers are still stuck in the past. Like I don't think they've ever hit the industrial revolution. So they all think that everything they do is very special and that um, like you cannot understand. You can't possibly understand how complicated it is to know how much it's going to cost. Well, it is and it isn't. Like it's like if you're really good at what you do and you've done this more than once, you probably have a good sense of how much it's going to cost, and you have a good sense of where the roadblocks will be. So just have this conversation, talk about the task, talk about like what you estimate will be the timeline, but the cost, and ask. Like some people are happy to do flat fees. When I built my business, we were offering flat fees, and often the client would reject it and say, well, what's your hourly rate? Because they thought if I was offering flat fee that I was trying to screw them. So just know that sometimes it's a balancing act, but you can ask. Um, and how can you align your interests? Because the one thing, I started Simplex because of that quandrum. Like I really hated the fact that we were paid by the hour. Because if somebody's a service provider and you pay them by the hour, what is their incentive to be efficient? Like the more inefficient they are, the more they get paid. Like so it's kind of a weird one. So I'm always looking for those little ways of aligning my interests. And I'm like, well, can I pay you maybe upfront for this part, but you'll only get paid if you do this before this date. Like, let's just have the conversation. And if you don't have a lot of bargaining power in the early days and you don't send a lot of legal work, you may not have a lot of power, but at least see how they react to it and how open they are for that conversation. I think something that I really care about is like you don't use a GP for heart surgery, and you don't want a heart surgeon really for your annual exam. So like just make sure you're prioritizing lawyers that are at the right level of expertise for what you need. If your needs are like the needs of every other entrepreneurs and business people, you might be okay with your local lawyer, small town lawyer who does a little bit of everything. They might be more caring. You might get a better fit. But as the stakes get higher and you start having more specific legal needs, and I'd say that happens for me, like if you have complex IP, if you think you're going to go for like a big investor round, you want to get things right. If you're like looking at selling your business, buying a business, those are big moments. That's when you want a little bit more specialized to support you. So the generalist will probably know you better and adapt to your context better, but they might need critical nuances that an expert would just know inside out. So even if the expert, the tax guy I mentioned earlier, charges $1,000 an hour, he probably has the answer in his head. So it's going to be like half an hour for him to give you the response. And if you were to ask me that same tax question, I would have to run, research the topic, and I may just be $600 an hour. But if it takes me 5 hours, you're not ahead of the game. So you see where I'm going? Sometimes you just have to think the expert will know this and may have the answer in their head, and that's a really better investment of your time. And if you have a really good generalist, your generalist should be able to say, hey, this is a good time to use a specialist. And if your lawyer is not suggesting sometimes to deal with other people, they may not be the right partner for you. And in the end, like it's a balancing act, right? Like getting the right cost, getting somebody you want to deal with, the fit, the expertise and the fluency, like, just find what matters to you at that time. But those are the items I look for when I'm hiring a lawyer. We talked earlier how to reduce your legal costs. Like there's like making the deal up front, uh, asking for a flat fee or capped fee, see if they will do it. There's some really interesting, more innovative firms that are coming through, and I'm not vouching for the quality or anything like that, but I've dealt with them, like a firm called like Good Lawyer. Have an interesting platform for entrepreneur. You can put your request in there online, and somebody calls you. They have a concierge. They will walk through your issues, and they'll say, okay, I have this person who can help you, should be around this price. Or you meet with that person and they give you an estimate. I thought they were nailing well that conversation. So, and they're very business focused. So take a look. It might work for you. It might not work. As I said, there's different innovative models, but this is one I've used. I'd say the thing that most entrepreneurs on, underestimate is how much time a lawyer spends organizing your messy files. I've received like, I'll get a new file back when I was practicing, and I'd get a dump, like literally a dump of documents, information, and so on. And then I had to go back to my desk and really like spend hours organizing the information, creating a timeline, and so on. This inside out. Like prepare a written summary. Just get your stuff organized. Have your questions written out in advance. Build a timeline. Name the documents in a way that somebody doesn't have to open every single document, find out what they do. So if you're organized yourself, then your clarity will immediately translate into efficiency for a lawyer. So if you're paying them by the hour, makes a huge difference. I've also offered sometimes lawyers working for me to say, okay, let's break this down. What needs to happen? And if I saw that some of the tasks were more admin focused, or were more, I didn't see like that their legal brain was really needed, then I'd say, well, can my team do it? Can we do this? Prepare a first draft for you. And like as an example, if you're doing a really big purchase agreement and you're buying a business, often the schedules, like where you're describing what you're buying or what you're selling, what's in the IP, what are like, the different locations of your business, it's easier for you to do that. Like you don't want to be paying even a junior lawyer to do this. Like do the first round and that. So those are all ways to make things more efficient and breaking down the work that lawyers traditionally did it all. You can break it down and see if there's not someone else that could do it at a better cost. So that's how to try to manage your legal cost. Another way to manage your legal cost, and we alluded to it earlier, was using AI, but using it wisely. Like, I'm not going to sit here pretending that, people should not use AI because it's not a lawyer and it's happening. I'm doing it. Lawyers and law firms are doing it. We're all doing it. I think the main difference between you doing it and me doing it is the quality of my prompts. Like I know exactly what I'm looking for, so I ask better questions and I provide the context that I know in advance the system needs to help me. So as a step back, many people don't understand that AI is not an intelligent tool. It looks and sounds intelligent. It can give you confidently, we all know now, hallucination. So it can really be super confident at giving you an answer that is completely wrong. That's because it is a predictor. It's a forecaster. If you're saying, hey, my contract is about a dog and it will say a park. Like the dog and park are always associated, right? Like it doesn't know why you're asking the question. So it's on you to do the right thing and ask the right questions. So I gave this example. So you're about to hire a contractor who will be a crucial part of your business over the next 2-3 years. And then they will have access to sensitive information and will be central to your growth. You want to use an AI tool to help you get ready. You might go to see a lawyer, but you just want to start thinking about this, right? So what would you ask AI to help you think about this? What would be your prompt? Anybody brave enough to put it in the chat? And I'm cheating because some people might see the bottom of my screen. I should hide it. Okay, that's better. So, okay, I'll just get going. I think a smart prompt could be, I personally love perplexity when it comes time to more education prompts. And I could be like, okay, list for me key questions I should ask a potential independent contractor before hiring them in BC. You could ask also, oh, I see, what are the common risks involved for my business when working with this type of contractor in BC? Love that. What's some of the common clauses that you could find in an independent contractor agreement in BC? And I urge you to think about in BC because I said it's a super predictor. Like think about how ChatGPT's been trained. How many contracts are US contracts versus Canadian contracts, right? So if you're not telling it that you're looking for BC, it will probably bring a template that is based on American law that has nothing to do with Canadian law. So you really have to be a little bit more specific. So I think AI is really great at breaking down legal concepts, educating you about what you should be thinking about, helping you organizing your thoughts, and helping you prepare even to meet with a lawyer. But it's not a lawyer. Where I think we cross the line is when we're starting to ask it with like what I would call more of a legal advice. It's like, can I call this person an independent contractor instead of an employee? It will give you a beautiful answer, and I can promise you that this won't be accurate. Is this contract enforceable? Well, how would it know? It doesn't even know the jurisdiction. It doesn't know which law, which industry. Are you a super regulated industry? There might be other considerations. Review this contract and tell me if it protects me. It's going to give you some stuff, but you'll be like probably 50%. It's like roll of the dice. some good, some bad. You won't know how to make the difference. So it doesn't know your business context. It cannot apply law to your specific facts, and it may give you wrong or risky answers, right? So I I want you to understand and know the limitations and the risks. So I touched on it is a predictive tool. It's not a knowledgeable tool. It recognizes patterns, but it is not giving you an accurate answer. It does not possess like that true understanding. But that said, like we've tried it and it passed the bar school, so it's getting pretty good out there. But you need to know how to use it. I think what's important to understand is that anything you put in a chat, even if you have like, please don't do it on a just consumer free version. Like that's terrible. Your data goes back to train the system. Like you might be exposing yourself to way more risk. But if you at least take the 20 bucks a month, that's a cheap lawyer or cheap, at least lawyer adjacent. But you still have a privacy risk. We've seen some people being able to ask ChatGPT to disclose private conversations, and it did. So sharing sensitive business information might not be the greatest. So I've done it in the past where I had a contract, I wanted to run through it, and I just use a software that blanked all the names and personal information. And then I use this blanked anonymized version to do it. So just be very wary of the privacy risks, and making sure that your data won't be used to train the model. And then one that is starting to come up is this is subject to a subpoena or to discovery. So if you're having a really tough legal question, something that if you went to see a lawyer would have been covered by the solicitor client privilege, like you could talk freely to your lawyer and it will never go to court, right? So think about somebody who would be using it not for business, but like a criminal purpose and say like, is this criminal? And then somebody subpoena their computer and find that they've asked ChatGPT if that was like criminal to do. Like it's really hard after that to argue that you didn't know, right? So it's all discoverable. So keep that at the back of your mind. But that said, I think there's some times where AI is much better, and sometimes an experienced commercial lawyer would be better. And you'll have this in your the link in the PowerPoint, so don't sweat it. But basically, I think AI is especially good at explaining legal terms in plain English, summarizing legal concepts, predicting the response based on the data that it got trained. A lawyer will be better at really focusing on your context, knowing your jurisdiction, giving you more of an appropriate, customized answer to your question. A lawyer is also better at spotting what's missing or what's not market, because there's always an evolution in contracts, right? Like there's a time where like everybody knows that in this type of contract, we always ask for this kind of liability provision. AI is not very good at that. I've tried it many times. It doesn't do it well. Again, AI very good at brainstorming questions to ask, preparing steps, organizing your thoughts. The lawyer is very good sometimes at asking you the question you didn't think to ask. And this is probably my favorite question to AI when I'm in ChatGPT and I've had this long conversation and I'm like, okay, now we've talked about this topic for quite some time. What are the questions that I didn't ask that I should have asked? And then it pauses and you can get some, it discovers some maybe blind spots. So I love asking those questions. We've touched on confidentiality, privacy, legal privilege. Obviously, you're super protected with a lawyer. You have no protection or limited protection with AI. And the cost of AI is cheaper upfront, but there's no protection for you if it makes mistakes, right? Like it's just, you use the tool, you made a decision, it's on you. On the lawyer, it's higher upfront costs, but it could be a proactive risk management and it protects you from expensive missteps. So I wanted to touch on this because I think we need to really make sure that everybody understands where one is better than the other. So we're coming on the hour, and I just like we've talked about the recap and summarizing your deal in point form. Doesn't have to be an email, but like just taking time to put your agreements in writing. I can't emphasize enough that makes a huge difference. Slowing down and making sure you thought about the right questions around the deal you're making, considering if you should be using a legal counsel. And for the cases where you don't have the money, it's not high stakes and so on, are you using AI wisely versus a lawyer? So those were like really what I wanted to bring. There's so much more I could share with you, but we need to start somewhere. And legal awareness is a journey. So, like, this is step one of your journey. I hope it's going to encourage you to take a step to change something, do a little something different this week. So, whether it's starting to really be more discipline around sending those recap emails, running your next agreement through the 5Ws, or drafting some prompts thinking about what are the risks and am I using it the right way. And don't forget, like, legal confidence is built through consistent small actions, not one perfect moment. So I love cats, so you get my cat picture to finish this presentation. And I'm an entrepreneur as you. I'm on the same journey, but because of this knowledge that I have of legal, I was really happy to share that with you and start demystifying, because I think lawyers sometimes make it on purpose feel like it's a you need to know this special code, you know? You don't. It's a conversation.
Thanks so much, Martine. That was fantastic. We're getting a lot of people in the chat saying such great information, useful information, saves me a fortune, like this is great to know. So I just want to reiterate to everybody that Martine is willing to share her PowerPoint with everybody, and that will be the recording that you're going to be getting. And Martine, somebody asked about sharing the software that does that redacts things that are personal,
Okay.
so if you don't have to do it now, but if you can give it to Jen after, we can send it in the email later. So anyway, yeah, thank you very much. Jen's going to share her screen now, and we're just going to kind of finish up a little bit. And I just wanted to remind everybody, if you can stick around for a few extra minutes and do our feedback poll, we'd really appreciate that. And the other thing is, if you sign up for our e-blast, you'll get all this information, which is great. And the last thing is I guess, just thank you, Martine, for all this information. I can see this being more like a two-part session because it's a lot to digest, and it is kind of helpful to work through some of the exercises while we're doing it, which is great. So yeah, live and learn, and that's what we do here at WBC. So yeah, thank you so much for everybody, and thank you very much for all the really detailed information, Martine, that sometimes we get panelists that aren't afraid to dive in, and you did, and I think it really was helpful to everybody. So thank you very much.
It was my pleasure to be here today.
Great. And I just want to remind everybody that we've got a couple of things coming up. We've got our SMART programs, if anybody's interested. It's all online, absolutely free, and you can get yourself a marketing plan. You can get yourself an HR plan. I mean, it's pretty amazing. So you just go to our website, we-bc.ca, and hit SMART programs. And we're having some exciting stuff coming up. We're doing another webinar on neurodiversity in the workplace, which is a fascinating topic. And it's coming up to be a celebration of Women's Entrepreneurship Day, November 19th. And we hope you join us because all of us need to kind of stick together in this entrepreneurial journey. And we would love for you to kind of be with us on November 19th. So again, go to our website. If you sign up for our e-blasts, it'll all be there. And Jen, if you could go ahead and put up the feedback poll, anybody that's still left, I think quite a few of you are here. We would love you to do our feedback poll today, just to let us know any topics that you're really interested in and for the future, and just how you found today, because we don't want to, we know your time is valuable, and we certainly don't want to waste your time with things that aren't valuable. But this was fantastic today. I want to thank you all, if you have to go, for joining us today. And I hope you sign up, and I hope you investigate AI a little bit. If you don't get the email from us tomorrow with all the information and the recording of today's session, please go ahead and send us an email to hello@we-bc.ca, and someone will get that webinar to you. Sometimes there's just a discrepancy in the email address. So that's great. So thanks a lot, Martine, for being here today. And yeah, thanks everybody for participating. Here's the feedback poll. So we hope you can fill it out really quick, and then we'll let everybody go. Thank you. You guys are great. Filling it out so quick.